Hello, my friends. How are you today? So everybody, my name is, we're going to get started right away. My name is Christian Rodriguez. I am the farm manager at Down Bottoms Farms, which is a project of Ironbound Community Corporation. Ironbound Community Corporation, we've been around for a very long time, servicing the area of Ironbound, but not only Ironbound, Newark, and we've been advocating for all of New Jersey as well. I work in the environmental justice area, where at the farm, we talk about food justice, environmental justice, housing justice, social justice, and all the injustices, unfortunately, that we face as communities, right, here in Newark. I'm gonna pass it on. We have 3 amazing panelists, and today's panel is about strategies, right? Strategies to reduce food waste. And so our amazing panelists that we have here, we have Britanny Forslind from Java Compost. We have Hend El-Buri, who's on screen, from Rutgers Newark Pantry Run. And we have Jocelyn, Germany, from Farm School NYC. Welcome, y'all. All right. So can you all actually introduce yourselves?
Jocelyn, Germany again, pronouns she, her, hers, farmer advocate for Farm School NYC. And Farm School NYC is a nonprofit that runs a citywide program that teaches adults the basic skill training that you need in order to become an urban farmer. So we take a year-long citywide course with courses consisting of propagation, crop management, growing soils, which flows into compost, integrated pest management, and anything and everything else that you would need to know to become a farmer. We teach carpentry, so you come in with whatever skills you have, and you pretty much, at the end of the year, matriculate out pretty much a fully trained, certified urban farmer. So that's me in a nutshell in my organization and some of the work that I do.
I'm Britanny. We're going to have you do your introduction.
Hi, good morning. My name is Britanny. I'm from Java's Compost. I've been with them just about 2 years. A lot of what I do, I started off as a driver collecting compost, and then I started working more behind the scenes doing administrative work. And now I get to do community outreach and education, which is my favorite part of the job.
Thank you, Britanny. And Hend.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. I wish I could be there in person. My name is Hend. I'm the Director for Nutrition and the Food Pantry at Rutgers University, Newark, where we have some food security initiatives, including working on sustainable practices and the connections between food and sustainability.
Thank you. So we're getting right into it. So maybe Britanny, can you explain a little bit about what's your connection to food, and how did your work with food get to where you are now?
So actually, when I was first starting with Java's Compost, I knew about composting, but I didn't know exactly how to do it, what the different ways were to do it. So before I learned about that, I was more focused on the growing of the food, the transportation, the resources needed to get the food from location or origin point to me and my table. And so I never really thought about the food waste part of it or the end of the life cycle. I just thought, well, if I eat all my leftovers, then it shouldn't be a huge issue. But of course, there's also the prep work that goes into it and all of the food scraps that you don't cook. So I never really thought about that until I started working for Java's Compost. And when I found that it was or can be possible that you can compost almost anywhere, I just thought, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And so, yeah.
And my experience with food is I'm noticing constantly changing. So I'll speak what my connection to food is presently. My connection to food is me currently aspiring to be a farmer, even though I work for farm school and I was also a student in this past year's cohort. My connection to food and my relationship to food has greatly changed in the last year in terms of really understanding that, food starts from not just from the seed and get to the plate, but it starts at the soil. And like when we took that growing soils class is when it really clicked for me. I was like, all of the elements are here in the soil. There's water, there's air, some energy to get things going. That's your fire. And so I'm like, and obviously the soil itself is the earth. Like, that's a given. So I'm like, all of the elements here are present that make up my food system and feed me. And then I need to feed that system back. So that way we have this reciprocal, symbiotic relationship. The earth feeds me, I feed the earth, and subsequently we are both fed. So currently that is my connection to food, is deeply understanding the journey of my food and my plant allies from, seed, that germination process, till it, sprouts and grows and becomes whatever it is that you intended. So really understanding, who that plant ally is and what their journey is from seed to plate, because what cauliflower goes through is not what a tomato goes through, and you need to understand that, because these are living things that you need to understand and build a relationship with. So, as you nourish them, they nourish you, and they understand, okay, so Jocelyn raised me to be this, so and you nourished me to be this, so let me nourish her. And then when you take that same tomato and maybe you save the seeds or you just compost it, whatever it is you compost it, is able to give back to you double, because now it has a relationship with you. Now it knows what you need, so it can give it back to you. Like, oh, so-and-so needs calcium, so-and-so needs vitamin D, so let's do that for one another. So that is currently what my connection is.
I love
food.
that,
Sorry, that was so
Jocelyn.
long-winded.
I love that. Who else talks to your plants? Yes, I do. I love that, Jocelyn. Thank you so much. Hen.
Yeah, I think for me, I've been working in nutrition and food security for a while, and my last role was primarily working in underserved communities and providing nutrition education through a team. And I think what was really tough for me in that role was that because it was primarily just nutrition education, it was really hard to talk to communities and be like, hey, make sure you budget your $0 and buy healthy fruits and vegetables, and make sure you're also buying fruits that are good for the environment and good for you, and make sure that you're all of these things that it felt like these the people that we were working with didn't really have access to. And my current role, I think there's a lot more flexibility where we can both provide the immediate need and support students to get access to the healthy foods that they need to succeed and to do well, and to stay focused on schoolwork, but also include those aspects of nutrition education, sustainability education, and be able to kind of provide a little bit more of a holistic and richer experience around food, as opposed to just eat healthy, eat foods that are good for the planet, eat foods that are good for you, and not really thinking about all of the kind of social determinants of health and the environmental, the environment that people are actually in, how that kind of impacts them as well.
Thank you, Hannah. I appreciate that. I know many of us, being a college graduate myself, many of us, struggle, right, with getting food or where we're going to eat, right, or where we're going to find, especially nowadays. I think about all of our college students and, they're going to fast food restaurants and, having that opportunity or the availability of having these foods available, at the college, it's definitely appreciated. So thank you so much, Hen, for that work that you do. So now let's get into a little bit about the policy, right, or advocating and how you got to where you are. How can we advocate for just food waste reduction strategies in policy and in organizing?
So I'd like to go first. So here at Java's Compost, we don't actually do our own composting. Our long-term goal is to start doing that. Right now, we're just haulers, and so what we do is we pick up people's food scraps, and then we take it to a composting facility site, which fortunately for us is local enough, and it's in New Jersey. It's called Ag Choice. But the reason why we don't do our own composting is because it is incredibly expensive to do that. Any amount of composting at all requires over like a $500,000 budget to do that. That's just for licensing alone. You can get a reduced rate if you wanted to be certified as a research program only, and then you would have to have over a $100,000 budget. So that's before you even begin actually composting. And the way that the regulations are right now in the state of New Jersey is if you do any composting, like if you do your own composting at your house, it only has to be scraps from your house. So if you're composting your neighbor's scraps, then that's technically illegal by the laws of New Jersey. Any amount of composting at all, like collective composting, costs way too much money for any small-scale composting to be economical. And so that's one of our hugest challenge at the moment, and we're hoping that changes as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I was the other day I was reading about New York composting. It seems like the mayor Adams and some other folks are actually trying to remove the budget for that community composting, which at Downbounds Farms, we compost. We take in folks as composting, so I guess we're not really doing things legally, but hey, we're a farm, so I think there's some areas, right, that we qualify to compost there. But yeah, I'm thinking about like New York and the community composting that's happening there, and how the mayor's trying to remove the budget, and now you mentioning how expensive that can be. Just wondering, like, you know, since you're coming from New York and that background, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, sure. So currently in New York City, there is a lot of community compost. You can compost yourself, you can compost in your house. There are urban farms throughout New York City. There's Big Reuse, there's BK Rot, there's Red Hook Urban Farm. Like, these are places that compost. And there are other urban gardens that have like their own compost system. So composting is, in some places, you know, more accessible than others. Like in Queens and Brooklyn, you can compost. In the Bronx, not so much. You gotta go out either way. But there is, the city was providing a budget for community composting, but with the city implementing its own composting system through Department of Sanitation, the mayor's office and the commissioner decided to cut the budget that was going towards the community composting, and this is causing a lot of friction because as urban gardeners and farmers and land stewards, we want to remain sovereign over the systems that we helped create. So it's not just we want composting, we want the community to stay sovereign over the composting so that compost stays accessible and isn't gatekept by a city institution that often systematically butts heads with members of the community, especially those in the urban gardening and farming space. So a lot of community orgs that are within Farm Schools Network have been reaching out, doing a lot of advocacy and outreach, you know, say like, hey, reach out to the mayor and reach out to city council and say, hey, we want to keep this budget for community composting. It's not one or the other. It's not like the city does it and the community does it, or it's not either or. It was like, we need both. We need a sustainable composting system to better manage our waste, period. And we would like that to stay in the hands and the power of the community, because that's how DSNY even was pushed to implement city composting, was through the advocacy and the outreach of the community, of the people who were composting and farming, the people who needed, who wanted this relationships with the land. And it's like, you're gonna you're going to already destabilize this program by cutting out of the community. No, you need to keep community centered. You need to keep them on this, like, develop a steering committee for DSNY on composting, and you put the community at the center and at the lead in order to continue to build this out the way that it should be for the community. I'm talking too much. I just really wanted to like drive that home. It's not just about, oh, I need the city to do, I need the government to do it. No, community needs to be empowered and affirmed. That's the key thing here. So that's what's going on in New York City in terms of, like, you know, the policy outreach. And there's a rally going on today. Not that I want any of you to go. You can stay here. You're already doing the work by showing up here. There are some people out in New York who know where they need to be. So there's a rally going on today, you know, to, you know, continue the advocacy for this. And there's some phone banking going on, I think being organized by other networks and farm schools networks. So that's that. That's what's going on
How
in the
can
policy
folks
end.
get involved if they want to join the phone bank?
I can share the link that was sent to me because it was sent through another org.
Okay. So-
So I'll send the Google form to sign up for the phone banking that's going on Saturday.
Yeah, because as I'm not sure if a lot of you know, a lot of that food waste that ends up at Covanta, the garbage incinerator down the street from us, actually comes from New York. So as New Jerseyans, right, we definitely want to help out the folks in New York, keep that composting. So if you want to get involved, make sure you see Jocelyn at some point today so that you can get that information. And if you know anybody in New York, send them out there, you know. Hey, I need y'all to help us out here in Jersey by helping the folks in New York City.
And another point I want to drive home is that New York and New Jersey tend to follow each other policy-wise. So whatever New Jersey does, sometimes New York follows, and whatever New York does, New Jersey follows. So don't think, oh, this is going on in New York, I'm in Jersey. No, like, call your council people, call their council people. Like, you're still soliciting your constituent no matter what, because the EJ issues that are going on here affect New York, and what's going on in New York affects over here. So it's all interconnected.
Interconnection, yes, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for sharing that. And Brittany, Hen, yeah, how has policy, I know that there's been many policies that have been implemented, but, you know, as we spoke before, you know, you definitely had a story to share regarding how policy may have affected you all at Rutgers.
Yeah, I think, you know, on the topic, I think Jocelyn was saying how important it is to have a community-centered approach to policy. I think that's, you know, obviously so critical when we're looking at the ways that policies are implemented and who is impacted. You know, I've mentioned many times, you know, that it often feels like sustainable practices are only available to a small group of individuals, and often like people who are wealthier. So like where in New Jersey, community composting is available often in like Montclair, Maplewood, areas that, you know, not everybody can live in, or, you know, stores that have like more sustainable practices are like often in these specific areas. So I think it's really an important consideration of like who has access to these practices, and why should sustainable practices only be available to a specific group of people. You know, one of the policies that I think was for us as like, you know, our largest program is a food pantry. One of the tough, you know, policies for us was the plastic bag ban, where, you know, we're lucky to work with college students, and we had already been kind of like eliminating single-use bags, but a lot of the food pantries that we work with were really struggling, and they didn't receive a lot of technical assistance, they didn't receive like a lot of financial support. And so when these policies are enacted, you know, what are the steps taken to make sure that kind of the most vulnerable folks in our community are not negatively impacted. For another policy, I think in New Jersey that has been actually really great for us is that New Jersey, recently expanded the food donation, their food donation laws to make it much easier for restaurants and businesses to donate foods without fear of liability and concerns about people getting sick. And that policy was great for us because it allowed us to create a food waste app where students could sign up for notifications about extra food on campus and be able to go, pick up that food. And instead of, after events, we're throwing away like hundreds and hundreds of pounds of food. Instead, it's going to people who need it. And so some of the, I think we're lucky to live in a state where some of these things are even being considered. I know, I'm actually visiting my family in Missouri right now, and it makes me grateful to be able to see, some of the policies that we have that are, kind of protecting our environment, protecting our most vulnerable communities. But it's really important that with all of these policies, who's at the table, who's really, who's contributing to kind of the thought process behind these policies, and what is the support that's happening behind the scenes to make sure that, that these policies are working for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, just bringing it all back together, there's definitely many ways to, reduce your food waste, whether it's through composting, right? Whether it's through providing to a pantry, and also getting together, right? Ensuring that the communities, right, are centered, right? Asking the community, hey, how do we combat this issue with reducing food waste? And making sure that our community voices are heard, because we're here, we're living it, right? So it's important. So yeah, thank you so much for today and all of your expertise and everything that you all are doing to make this possible for us. But we want to give you maybe a few minutes because we're a little bit behind time. But if anyone has any questions for our panelists, please share, ask away. We want to make sure that your questions are answered. Don't be afraid. Yes, ma'am. There's an app for...
Oh, it's not an app. It's just a Google form that that an org made to sign up to pick a slot to call for the phone banking. I can figure it out. It's just a Google form that's pretty accessible. I'll find it and get Chris to send it out to folks if anyone's interested.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Okay, so just to reiterate the question in case anyone didn't hear it, but this individual is using another compost company called Unwaste, which I believe is in the Princeton or Trenton area, which is excellent. They're one of our partners, and sometimes we get people from in that area, and we always recommend Unwaste because they do the same thing that we do. So he was asking about a countertop bin, which they're using, but there's no way to seal it shut. So when it's in the bin, right, it's creating a lot of flies, like fruit flies or black flies. So he's just asking for a solution. What we use is, and I'm not sure, I would say this one is pretty good. What we use is called Bamboozle, or I should say what we recommend is called Bamboozle. It's a really nice design. It looks really nice in your kitchen, and it also does have a lid. On top of that, it has like a carbon filter that you can place on the lid, so that will help to reduce the odor as well. I can't guarantee that it's going to be like 100% fly-proof, but because a lot of the times there are eggs already in the vegetables, but it might greatly reduce the amount. Could I just ask for details as to what type of countertop you're using?
Well, it wasn't countertop. We put it in a drawer in the kitchen, and it was a white plastic. I don't remember the name of it, but just a hard plastic lid that didn't create a seal. So about yay big, something like that. And when it got full, I'd take it out to the garage and put it into the unwaste sealed container. But it might take a couple of days to do that.
My other suggestion, if you don't feel like getting like another countertop bin, you could also just store that maybe in the refrigerator just to keep the activity a little bit low. A lot of the times that's what I'll do with my compost, like random bin, right? I just pick a Tupperware container, I put my scraps in there, and then I leave it in the refrigerator until I'm ready to actually compost it. You're welcome.
Awesome, thank you.
If you have the freezer space, I also know folks who put their compost like in their bag and their little thing, and compost has its own corner in the freezer as well.
Yep. We got time for one more question. I think I saw someone. Okay, two more. I just want to make sure I get you two here. Yeah, go.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you. Very, very informative session. So my question, I'll probably ask every panelist, but Hend, you touched upon it, but maybe Jocelyn, you could also add to this. I'm quite curious around what policies municipalities can enact to either support composting or reduction of food waste.
Okay. Hend, did you hear the question? No? Okay. The question was what specific like municipalities you come.
Policies, initiatives that municipalities,
Okay.
like Department of Sewer, Public Works,
Okay.
Sustainability, EJ could enact to support the reduction of food waste.
Okay. The question was like what municipalities, like what departments, like can you contact or go through to actually like implement a policy change? Like, do you go to city council? Do you go to your assembly person? Like stuff like that. Like those type of folks. So it's like asking for recommendations. Like who do you go to? So my recommendation is start developing a relationship with like city council for city-based policy, and then you want to go to your contact your assembly members and your sorry. Yes, sorry, I'm not holding it close enough.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What can cities do? So not what can a city do to support the reduction of food waste?
Okay, okay, this is policy. Okay, so organizing off the top of my head, getting in touch with community organizers, getting in touch with your advocates, folks who are like kind of already doing the work in policy. Even some folks who are doing policy work don't even realize they're doing policy work, so that's another thing. But anyone who is trying to implement change, and yeah, definitely still city council. Like start developing relationships with those folks, because the more they see your face, the more they see your name pop up in emails, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so who's always talking to me about composting or food, like gardening or stuff like that, and like invite them to events, even if they don't show up, just like kind of like get to know them to the point where they know your face and name, because they do want to have relationships with their constituents. And I know that I don't want to get into this too much, but people of color, sometimes those of us who are traditionally systematically marginalized can feel a bit intimidated or not heard when trying to contact politicians, but I say do it anyway, because that's how we're going to get changed, is by having our voices heard. So just getting organized as much as we can, because honestly, the advocacy train doesn't really stop. So I say join in the work and step away from it if it gets too much, because it does require community. Sorry, that was a lot. I just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry.
And did you want to add
if I
anything?
took-
We're like running on time, but I didn't want to. I want to make sure that if you have anything to share, definitely share.
Actually, I'm not an expert in that area, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad somebody else was able to share.
Awesome.
I think I would just say, don't leave like the charitable food system out of like some of these policies and even accountability for food waste. Because there's like an enormous amount of food that's going into the charitable food system. And we want to make sure that, you know, they're an important part of our food system that's also, you know, upholding sustainable practices and part of like kind of the conversations around food waste.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Did you want to add 1 minute? Oh, 1 minute. We are 1 minute. Quick, if you have a quick question and we can answer real quickly. Also, I wanted to mention Office of Sustainability, ma'am. Check out your Office of Sustainability and get them involved as well.
Yeah, thank you. My question's actually really quick. And I use Java's Compost service, so yay.
Yeah.
My question is, I wonder if any of the panelists have thoughts about the new compost bins the DSNY put up in New York, the ones that you have to scan an app or whatever, because I've seen a bunch of critique of those, even some things like written on the bins themselves. So I wondered if anyone had quick thoughts about how that is working.
I don't have any thoughts because I haven't fully dived into that yet. Part of my main work has been like farm bill advocacy right now, and those who know, has been like really focused on farm bill advocacy, which has like been its own mess. And like I get other things like the composting situation and like other things that come through that are related. So I actually don't know, but I can share an update when I get one to like everyone, because a huge part of what I do is trying to keep as many people informed as possible, because like I said, I stress community a lot. I like to keep community informed because at the end of the day, we are the ones who make the change, and especially uplift and advocate for policy change. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If you all have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to them. We'll share Hend's information. We'll have Chris share Hend's information. Thank you so much for your time and for listening to us and bearing with us in the beginning. It was so much technical difficulties, but we made it through, y'all. Yes. Woo!